Now is John Grace, president and founder of Investors Advantage Corporation. John, great to have you here with us today. How do you think this will impact earnings for these retailers, this massive Cyber Monday and even Black Friday that we've been watching?
Yeah, of course, this is the silly season, right? The Christmas season, and it constitutes in many cases maybe 40% of sales for companies. I will say that the companies that have been prepared to work it, if you will, online and with brick and mortar are surviving quite well, certainly better than they did a year ago. I think that's certainly the good news. It's probably good news for the retailers and their executives in terms of bonuses and whatnot. May be good for stock prices at some point, although not now for reasons that we can discuss. But there's another side to this equation, right? Every rose has thorns. Every story has at least two sides. And what I can find in one survey suggests that 66 million of us are spending more, but it's with debt. And I'm submitting to you that that is not a good sign. We don't need more debt. And in fact, when we look at household debt at this time compared to about 10 years ago, it's higher than it's ever been in history. So it seems to me that a lot of us don't have the same kind of incomes for different reasons than we did 10 years ago. And we're really trying to make up for that difference by using the credit card as opposed to paying with cash.
John, to your point of every rose has its thorns, it's kind of true for retailers as well who are celebrating great successes and growth in online retail in their e-commerce businesses. But we know that along with that comes tighter margins as well. How do you think investors are going to be considering the margin pressure that comes from increased productivity in a sense in online retail and how that's going to play into their sentiment towards these retail names?
Well, I don't think they're prepared for the story that you're unfolding, that you're telling. And I think that's part of the problem. I like to coin a phrase from time to time, and the one I have is, it's not about the prediction, it's about the preparation. So the question becomes, how can people be better prepared? And I would submit that you might look at your portfolio back to 2008 to see how bad it got. And now, if we like the words of Reagan, as I'm sure we all do, trust but verify, how are you going to be better prepared for the next Titanic to hit an iceberg in the middle of the sea, in the middle of nowhere? So we may find that we see, some earnings, but right behind here, I don't see the same kind of boost that we've enjoyed for the last, certainly the last couple of years.
We've talked a lot about the consumer here, but the employees as well. This coming at a time where Amazon increased its hourly wage going into the holiday season by $15 an hour, I should say, and putting pressure on some of its competitors as well, Walmart and Target most notably. But in an environment where things are tightening, you've got a tightening labor market, but then you've also got how this is going to impact those profit margins for these companies going forward. Are they going to be a little bit tighter with how they are rolling out, in Walmart and Target's case, trying to get to $15 an hour?
Oh, absolutely. I think you've nailed it right there. We all like to make more money. At the same time, how's it often work? Last hired, first fired. And when these earnings seasons turn cold, as I think that's in the prescription, then we're going to see a lot of folks who maybe had a decent job, unfortunately lose that job, and then the house of cards does come falling down.
And John, let's stick on the theme of retail. As we saw, we're past this record Cyber Monday in terms of sales. Do you think we're going to see records every Cyber Monday and every holiday season into perpetuity, or is it a bit of a blip this year given market conditions overall?
I would call it more of a blip. Let's put this into context. And it's one of those things that, no one really studies. And the interesting thing is this comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. So it's really your tax dollars at work. You don't have to invent numbers or go to fake news or just say we're going to grow the economy 3, 4, 5% because I can do this. We have to look at the behavior, the buying behavior, particularly of consumers. The ordinary consumers, those making a household income of $60,000, those Amazon consumers, workers that may be getting the good jobs in the two new headquarters coming in at 100, 150. But the point is that it's at age 51 that peak spending happens. In other words, when people tend to get done with the kids in high school and maybe college, that's when their appetite for spending, other than healthcare, suddenly is in retrenchment. I mean, there's just no need to spend when the kids are gone, like you had to spend when you couldn't make enough money to spend your way to make everybody as happy as you possibly can. So let's just notice that 24% of the population, that would be the boomers, born 46 to 64, this year are 54 to 72. Next year, that means what, 55, 73. they're out of peak spending mode. So all of this spending just happens to be optional. And I don't think this is going to continue, primarily because when peak spending happens, once you're done buying potato chips, by the way, is on average, when you're 41 for your average 14-year-old, when do you buy potato chips other than the holidays again? But you
Right.
don't eat them, you might buy them. It's just that when you're done, you're over and out.
All right, forward looking here, John. Economic expansion remains to be on track to become the longest in U.S. history in 2019. What alarms would throw this off for you? And we only have a little bit of time.
Well, you've got the trade wars. That's a huge question mark. We don't know how this will end. But again, we can draw from history. And the most interesting thing I can find is the Smoot-Hawley Act, I believe was enacted in 1930. And my research team suggests that was the event where we posted 40% tariffs on 20,000 incoming goods to protect our farmers, sound familiar, that caused the U.S. economy to slip from a serious recession into the Great Depression. Could it be like Yoga Berra says, it's deja vu all over again? Only time will tell. That's the wild one, and so is the debt crisis. Whether it's consumers, corporate, or governments, including the U.S., we're all doing the same thing. We're putting everything we can on the credit card.
Every rose has its thorn, every night has its dawn. John Grace joins us to remind us of it. President and founder of Investors Advantage Corporation. Thanks so much for the time, John.
My pleasure. See you next time.